Hi, my name is Paul Greenwood and I'm the Talent Programme Manager for the Jersey Sport Foundation. I'm fortunate that within this role, as well as ensuring the smooth operation of the Talent Programme, I still get to develop and deliver on S&C programming, with the odd track coaching session thrown in when I'm lucky. I assist the Jersey FA with their Disability Development Programme. I founded and run the Jersey Frame Football Club, and I'm presently trying to get Rose running off the ground here in Jersey. So a little bit of background in how I got into coaching. My own sport was rugby, predominantly rugby league, but then a little bit of rugby union, and despite being pretty mediocre as a player, I just loved playing. What I lacked in quality, I made up for in quantity. I played in excess of 400 games in England, Ireland and Jersey. When my body finally gave up on me, it was really apparent that I had a massive debt to sport and I had to give something back. So I went from one season as a player to the next as a coach. It was just as simple as that. Initially, I stayed in my comfort zone of senior rugby, but then took voluntary roles to widen my experience of coaching different sports and different age groups. It was through football that I first became interested in disability sports coaching, which then led me to para-athletics, via a year or two involved in disability horse riding. So if I have to think about highlights, well, I know it sounds a bit corny, but I feel so privileged to do the job I do. Seldom does a week go by without some real highlight moment jumping out. In my professional role, I'm working daily with young performance athletes across such a diverse range of sports, from archery to judo to more traditional track and field. Also, to be closely involved in sports with a great heritage like Olympic lifting and rowing, to exciting, developing sports such as paddleboarding. In our S&C facility, our platforms have athletes representing completely different sports, but they share the common goals of enthusiasm, determination and ambition to travel to the top in their respective discipline. In 2018, I went to the CP Israel World Games in Barcelona. The highlight of those games for me was not the performances, though for sure there were plenty of future Paralympians in the making, but it was to witness the bonding that unfolded throughout the week. A large group of really young athletes coming together, many not knowing each other, most having their first experience of a major sporting occasion, being away from home, and just to see that group come together so that within a few days they formed a genuine CP Team England. That absolutely contributed to the impressive medal haul from those games. Coming from a team sport background myself, I'm in no doubt that you are stronger together, and that absolutely can transfer into individual sports when an environment of shared learning and support is cultivated by the management and coaches. The community of coaching is also a massive highlight. I don't know if it's because so many coaches have travelled similar paths, that they've got shared experiences, often making similar sacrifices to be able to do the thing they love so much. I almost always find a warm welcome from other coaches. Doors are opened, experiences shared, and our athletes and our sports are better for it. So what considerations do I have when coaching para-athletes? If I had to give just one bit of advice, I would say sometimes it's best just to stand back and let the athlete try to solve the puzzle themselves. I learned this from being so lucky to observe firsthand two of the best track para-coaches in the business, Joe McDonnell and Jonas Dodu. Para-athletes really work you as a coach. They present you with puzzles to solve that you will never have come across before. That type of challenge is what good coaches thrive upon, but to solve those puzzles you first have to stand back, observe and listen. Put the athlete at the absolute centre and embark on a joint enterprise to seek out the solution. As your starting point, don't be afraid to fall back on those tried and tested cues from coaching able athletes, but then work with your athlete to adapt them and keep adapting until you find the answer. It'll take time, but be patient. So from my experience, what recommendations or advice would I give? My first advice would be that talent does not always arrive with fanfare and fireworks. When I was about 14, the rugby club I was with brought in a guest coach for a couple of months. On first impressions, I just thought he was an old man, he was quiet, he stood back, but occasionally he threw in the odd tip here and there. But as the weeks progressed, our team play just started coming together. We improved a little bit individually, but the collective of those small improvements was enormous. Many years later, I found out that man was Ernest Ward, ex-Great Britain captain from the 40s and 50s, and one of the greatest to have ever played, a true immortal of rugby league, my sport. I honestly would just give anything to now have 10 minutes in that man's company. But at the time, I did not recognise his talent because, like I say, he didn't arrive with fireworks and a fanfare. And athletes can be like that too, so be patient. Don't make early judgments, and I've absolutely fallen into that trap myself. Sometimes the best athletes just need that bit more time to develop. Sport does seem to be trending towards finding ever younger elite talent, which is fine, as long as we nurture that talent, consider the person, not just the athlete, and put appropriate pastoral support systems around them. Secondly, I would stress the importance of enjoying the journey, and I'm certainly not the only one to try to preach this in sport. It's becoming ever more important, so I don't want to take credit for this one either. In performance sport particularly, there are so many things that can knock you off track. Some may even bring your ambition to an end. Injury, not being selected, performances falling away, pressure of training, school, exams, and even the creep of old age for us older athletes. It's a lot to have to deal with. But if and when it does end, regardless of what level was achieved, if you can look back with happiness and fondness at the journey that took you to that point, then nothing was wasted and nothing was lost and so much was gained. Finally, I'd say be prepared to work for nothing. Volunteer, take on an internship. I'm not saying it's right that so much work goes unpaid within this profession, but it's without doubt the best way to gain experience and get a foothold on a career in coaching. Having trod that volunteer and internship path myself for many years, I'm always so respectful of any volunteer coach I work with. It's only because of those coaches working tirelessly at the grassroots level of sport that coaches like me working at the professional level get to enjoy the privilege of working with young athletes. If you're already working in professional sport, always respect those doing the hard yards at grassroots. Take an interest in their work and you will absolutely learn from every one of those interactions. And I guess if I leave you with one takeaway, then it's back to that wonderful community of in sport. And to steal a phrase, regardless of whether coaching at pavement or podium, coaching is such a rewarding experience. It's given me so much, and never more so than when I'm working with para-athletes. So, thanks for listening.